welcome to the author adventure. Liz, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Russ. How are you?
Well, I'm super excited about the guest we have today because an author that has been to Kenya and had some experiences. It's just one of those stories that you really want to lean into and understand a little bit more about because
Yeah,
well, it's just exciting to me.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is. I think exciting for her, and really what will be interesting is that it wasn't easy. There was a lot of struggle,
yeah.
in the decision, and I know G is going to talk about that. But before we get to our guest today, we're here always every Tuesday, 5 p.m. This is episode 18. We're excited to be doing episode 18. And here, as you know, we talk about the art and business of publishing. And so Russ and I are in the process of writing a book about the 5 secrets. We think there are 5 secrets, maybe plus a bonus, which we'll tell you about. And so that's
Be more.
writing, publishing, launching, marketing, distribution. And then the bonus chapter stuff is going to be about technology, the things that you can do today to help reduce the time that you're spending by automating things, and also the ways you can accelerate and enhance and expand your process and your author adventure and your book sales and your visibility and all of that. And that's all available through the technology that we have today. But Russ is going to talk to us a little bit about our writing. We always kind of roll through these things, each secret. We're going to be sharing some different strategies under each of these secrets. And so today we wanted to talk a little bit more about writing, because some of you are out there, you're thinking you want to do it, you're kind of scared to do it, you don't know how to start. And so, Russ, tell us kind of how you, one of the opportunities that you had that you took advantage of.
Well, one of the advantages that I took advantage of, one of the advantages, let me say advantage a few more
The
times.
opportunities.
One of the opportunities that I came across years ago when I was in Houston was a collaboration book, and it allowed multiple authors to join in on a single subject. In fact, I have it here, and it was a great Lone Star Media Leaders, and it's like a number of different authors in Texas that got together and created subjects and chapters about the media of the day. And it was really important to understand that you don't have to do this alone. You can actually work together with a team and collaborators. Maybe somebody's done a little bit more than you have. Maybe they're further ahead. Maybe they have some resources that you need access to. Liz and I have been doing this a long time in the space, online space, digital space, producing, advertising, and marketing. And there's still a number of individuals that you need access to in order to successfully deliver a book to the public.
Right.
And writing the book is a part of that equation. And like Liz mentioned, there's 5 other secrets and strategies that we talk about. However, if you want to get together with a group of individuals and talk about, write about, and publish on a topic that you can all work together on and support each other on, it's an amazing way to get your word out there, build some brand authority, increase your visibility, and also be known as a thought leader in the space. And it's really an easy access piece of the equation where you can go in and do that. And I think you've probably done this type of collaboration in the past, haven't you, Liz?
Yeah, I've done a little bit more of like co-authoring, with a co-author or an illustrator or somebody like that. I haven't done really a group project, but we've kind of been talking about that because, especially related to marketing, there's so many opportunities. And you can't be an expert in all of it, And so if you go out and get, 8 or 9 other people, and maybe somebody writes about social media, and maybe you write about podcasting, and maybe somebody else writes about, about websites, and somebody else writes about Facebook ads, whatever it is, there's all kinds of ways to promote your business and yourself or your book. And so that's an easy way to start and you can go ask other people to join you, or maybe there's somebody else that will come and ask you if you have some expertise in a particular area. So be sure to share your knowledge and your wisdom with people that you might want to work with, because you never know when a partnership, will turn out, and how it'll take off and take you to a whole new place that you never thought you'd be. Just like us in this podcast or this live stream.
Well, and that's the reality of where we are right now today. Is a lot of what we do to build our authority and build our visibility from our books is going to be, how can we gather attention from other resources? And historically, digital marketing hasn't been an opportunity years ago, and now it's another opportunity, and you have to learn how to navigate that. You learn how to market and position, and also you have to be comfortable with the resources you have. So let's work together, get your book published, or maybe do a collaboration together. Reach out to us, make sure that you have an opportunity to, if you have a seed of an idea here, there's an opportunity out there. And one of the things that I always promote and I want to share with you right now is, we all have a gift. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has a message, and our experiments become experience, and sharing that information is the most valuable thing we could do right now in the world we live in. And if you can write about that, publish a book, and get that out there, that builds authority, visibility, thought leadership. And it's a great calling card, and it's a great way to produce outcomes that you never expected in the past. So Liz, I'm really excited about 2023 and some of the things we have unfolding. And I just excited about GE today. So without further ado, I would love to have her join us and make sure that we can share this story about Kenya. So
yeah, that'd be great. All right. So our guest today is author G.E. Johnson, and GE has a couple of books, but the book we're going to talk about today is Fishing the Dust of Kenya. Hey, GE, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, so this will be great. So we usually kind of start with, how did you get into writing? Was that something you kind of always liked, or was that just something maybe you came to later on in life?
It's something that came very naturally to me when I was quite young. I loved listening to the radio, and it was mainly the lyrics that interested me. And what I would do is I would memorize lyrics and write them down. Yeah. And I had a whole big suitcase just full of song lyrics. And I think I learned good writing from some of that. Mm-hmm. And so at a fairly young age, I began writing poetry, and still write a pretty good bit.
Yeah.
But it all really started with music.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Because you're probably the first person. I think probably music has influenced some of our other authors, but I think you're the first person we've had on that really explained it well about how that worked. And, some of us are auditory learners. I'm an auditory learner. So that's like me. I always hear the words first. People always say, don't you see the pictures? Don't you see the visual? I don't get a visual picture in my head. I get the words. And then, I have to really work hard, on visualization. That was never an easy thing for me. I was an auditory kinetic learner. I like to touch it and feel it like books and hold it in my hand and smell the paper,
Yeah, I'm kind of a combination of all of those, but I am quite auditory. And anytime music is such an important part of my life and always has been. Yeah. But it's the lyrics that I focus on.
They captured you. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Melody, for watching here. We appreciate you coming on today.
Let me tell you about Melody.
Okay, tell us about Melody.
Melody's the reason I began writing a book in the first place. She's a former student of mine from the 8th grade. And when I talked to her, she'd say, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. When are you going to start that book? Have you started that book yet? And so I told her, okay, I'll write a book if you'll edit it, thinking she'd say, oh, no, I can't do that. I don't have time. And she said, okay. And I thought, uh-oh.
Now I'm in the suit. Now I'm into it.
Yeah, she's the one who was my, really the catalyst that pushed me into it. So I'm very, very thankful to her and her influence.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so proud of her because she's an author too. You might want to have
Right.
her on sometime.
Well, we will. We'll talk about that after we get off here today. So, well, tell us a little bit about how you got how this story came about, because I know, like you say, you've shared with me it was quite a struggle, and so tell us a little bit about how this whole experience in Kenya happened for you.
I got a very strange email that asked, "Who will go for me? Whom shall I send?" And it was basically talking about a group called Living Water International that would go to third world countries and build these extremely expensive water wells in areas where, you might have to go 10,000 feet deep before you hit water. And it was just like, why would I get this? Yeah, who sent this to
Who
me?
sent this to me? Yeah.
And, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm not going. You ask somebody else. But it was one of those things I never felt like God really talked to me. But there is a song that we sing in my church where streams of living waters flow. My ransom soul he leadeth. And every time I would say, no, I'm not going. I'm too scared. It's too dangerous. It's too this, too that. That song became an earworm and just would roll around in my head incessantly. And it just finally got to the point where I realized if Moses argued with God and didn't win the argument, I wasn't going to win one either. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and it is, but people, I think a lot of people, Christians today anyway, they're kind of afraid to argue with God. And I, I'm not, and I don't think you are, but
yeah, definitely not.
but some people are, but
Yes.
like you say, God, he's not scared of us.
Well, and it just, I think it just depends on your upbringing. There are some churches where you just don't question.
Right.
And in others, it's perfectly normal and natural to question things. And so, I have always been one of those that, I'm an Aries, so I'm kind of, combative in the first place at times, and argumentative at times. And
now I understand completely why.
Yeah, you get it now, huh?
Right. Yeah, I get it now.
Yeah, that fire and brimstone didn't scare me because I'm full of fire myself.
Right. Yeah. That's right. That's great. Well, that's great. So you got this email. You decided to go. You said yes after kind of doing all the other options to say no, and everybody kept saying no. You need to go, or the Lord. You kept hearing the song. And now I understand why you kept hearing the song too, because music's so important to you. So that's really cool. And so how did the trip go? How did you prepare for the trip? And then tell us a little bit about the trip. And I think we've got a little video here. So once you tell us about how you prepared to go, then we'll run the video, and then we'll come back and talk about the trip.
Okay.
That work?
First of all, I had to get like a dozen different immunization shots. It cost, around about $800 when it was all said and done. And we were also supposed to take our suitcase of clothes with one set of clothes to wear home, and whatever we wore while we were there, we would leave there for the people. And we were also taking a trunk full of different supplies, medical supplies, books and pencils for school kids, toiletries and all kinds of stuff, and everybody was to bring that trunk full. So I had a lot of people collecting things for me and helping me pay for the plane ticket, pay for, the lodging while I was there and so forth. And, it was truly a big effort. And in the book, there's a page in there where there is a blessing wall that has initials for all of the people who were involved in one way or another in helping me make that journey.
Make the trip. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Yeah, and that's exciting too, and to do that, to think, because it's not like you say, it's not just one person or maybe 8 or 10 people. There are a lot of people behind the scenes working when a trip happens, and
Mhm.
so that's really great. Well, why don't we do this? We'll watch the film here. We put a little film together just with some photos and
That's-
stuff, and then
yeah.
we'll come back and you can tell us about, the actual trip and going on the trip and what surprised you, I guess, or maybe what was the struggle or the sad part. But then, I know there were some great joys and some great friendships made as well.
Yes. All right.
All right, so that's so fun, and it is the vistas because it's so different than what we're used to, especially if you're in the city or an urban area.
Oh, yeah.
To just see the openness. But tell us a little bit about the actual trip. Going and getting there, and kind of how
Mhm.
what y'all engaged in, and what y'all did while you were there.
Well, I was there for 10 days, and we went to different schools, and we went to different churches. One church, the first church we went to, we made the mistake. We thought it would be good for us to all kind of scatter out instead of all sitting together and, mix with the people. And come to find out, the way they do church, men sit on one side, women sit on the other, and we were all mixed up. So they had to tell us, you need to move to that side and you go to that side, and get us all straightened out before we could start church. But meeting the Maasai, they live such a primitive life in our worldview, but there again, they are very gentle people, very loving people, very generous people who, one of the things that just really touched me is when we were in church and they would, get ready for the offering. They had like a red velvet bag, and people would line up and they would go and drop their money in. And even if they had nothing, they would put their hand in the bag to show if they had something, they were willing to give it.
Oh, yeah.
And that it just melted my heart for those people. But we spent a lot of time with school children teaching hygiene, about washing hands and cleanliness. We all took money for souvenirs and one thing or another, but we gave away a lot of our money because at the tent mission where we went, there was one room that had 5 bunk beds in it, and 50 boys slept in those 5 bunk beds.
Wow.
And they had not had any meat to eat in over a year. So we just pooled money and said, sent our driver, go buy some meat. And, it was like a total feast, and they were just so excited.
Yeah, it was like
And,
birthday celebration.
we managed to also get them all a soft drink, which they were really excited about because they could trade that bottle back in for a little bit of money. So, it was a win-win all the way around in that regard, and just a real blessing. And girls at the Pahuchi orphanage needed a skill. The boys were learning how to make bricks and cinder blocks.
Right.
The girls needed a skill, and mainly sewing, but they had no sewing machine. So before we left, we bought 2 sewing machines for them and left them there for the girls to be trained in that. So, there were just a number of things that were needed that, by God's grace, we were able to provide for them before leaving. And it was just one of those things of finding where the needs are and doing our best to fill them.
Right.
And when I talked to the kids, it was all about, get your education as much as you can, because that, more than anything else, will lead you in directions you cannot imagine.
Right. Yeah. And you, I know it was such an emotional experience too, and you met some great people. We don't want to give all the stories away because we want you to buy the book here, and you can find the book there at Amazon.com. It's DP. You type in BOBN4B44C2. We'll put these links in the show notes. You'll just be able to click on them, but you can go to Amazon and you can put in G.E. Johnson. That's G.E. Johnson, JOHNSON, or you can put in Fish in the Dust of Kenya, and that book's going to come up, and you can look for that beautiful cover there. It's with the sky and a tree and the silhouette. But tell us a little bit about the people that you met, because the people working with these children were fabulous, and and it's amazing that they, like you say, keep working with and don't have that much. They don't have the resources that we would have.
Right.
Here.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk first about Miss Lucy, who ran the Pahuchi orphanage. She was literally just a human dynamo.
That was the lady in the red suit that we saw.
Yes, the lady in the red suit. And, she has so many resources that she has gone out and just worked and worked and worked to build a network of resources that, has really worked out well just from her efforts.
Right. I think they service about 600 kids, didn't they?
Yes.
Not just the kids locally, but their outreach went out, out in the community.
Into the community, the landscape all outside the orphanage. So they were feeding not just the kids at the orphanage, but also any that came from the surrounding villages into there. And so, she had her hands full and was busy all the time. Bishop Bai at the tent mission took young boys off the street, because often it's one of the saddest things in the world. Parents who couldn't take care of their children would just turn them out on the street. And you would, driving through town, you could see young children as young as 4 and 5 years old digging through the dump heaps, looking for something to eat or whatever. And Bishop Bai would take in boys off the street, give them a home, try to get them an education, feed them, clothe them, so forth. And so it's one of those things of doing what you can with what you have. And he came here to the United States a couple of times. That's how he got the money to buy the big circus tent that was his church. And so, it's just looking around, like I said, seeing a need and doing the best you can to fill that need and fill that void and give somebody a chance. And people like Dr. Catherine, Dr. Catherine was quite unusual in the fact she was a woman with an education, a very high level education. I was, and had her medical degree, but she couldn't find any work. But every single day she would go to a clinic or a hospital or somewhere like that, and she would work all day long, helping, treat patients in one thing or another, just in the hope that at the end of the day, she might get something to eat to take home. And whether she did or not, she got up the next morning, did the same thing again, day after day after day, just a real servant heart.
Yeah.
And just trying to survive.
Right, right. So it's great. So so you'll see that from this book. I mean, GE shared these different stories. She talks about these wonderful people. She talks about the experience with the children, and so we want you to go and check this book out. You can find it on Amazon. You can do that. You can connect with her on Facebook. She has a Facebook page. It's GE Johnson or Author GE Johnson, and so you can search that out. Like I say, we'll put that in the show notes. I know we had some other folks here that jumped on. We appreciate y'all. Thanks so much for watching. And it's it is like you say. It's there was a lot of sadness. I know there's Johnny, but it also was a great joy, wasn't it? In the end, I mean,
absolutely.
You wouldn't trade this experience for anything, would you?
No, I would not. And the reason I did not understand, me of all people to be sent on this mission trip. But after it was all said and done, I came to realize I firmly believe I was sent by God on that trip to write those stories, because Joy, the group leader, had taken probably 12 different groups before. Right. Over there, and met all these same people and did these same type things, but nobody had ever written the stories. Oh, wow. And I firmly think that's why I was chosen to go over there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so because when you had the gift of writing, you had the ability, and I know it's exciting, and we only have a few minutes left, but I do want you to tell us a little bit about your safari experience, because y'all got to do that too. You didn't just do some missionary work. You actually got to go out and see the countryside. You saw the Maasai and their cows, and the great stories about Maziland. And so we want y'all to go and read those stories. We're not going to tell those stories here, but do tell us a little bit about what that was like to go on safari.
Well, it was fascinating. It was just an incredible experience. But we had a driver who, trusted God a whole lot more than I did at that moment, because he would drive up around a pride of lions and turn the engine off and just sit there. And it's like, what if they get up and decide they're hungry and we're sitting here and we'd say, John, crank up the Jeep. And he just sit still. Don't look the cat in the eye. We will be fine. But there were a couple of times it was kind of scary. But seeing those lions go to that water hole at night, you saw a picture of them silhouetted as night was coming down, and hearing that one would roar across the waterway and run back, and you could literally feel it rumble through your chest, just like billiard balls bouncing off your ribs, and you hear the MGM line in the movies, but it is so much more powerful than that. Even it's just an incredible thing, and God's creation and his creatures. It's truly a lifetime journey to go and see those kind of things, and I was blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I thank you. I mean, it's just crazy. So 30 minutes is gone, and we could sit here and talk for another hour and a half. So may have to have you come back. We will have you come back and talk about your other book. Because we're kind of in second production on that, doing a second edition, and that'll be coming out after the first of the year. So And that's based a little bit on your upgrowing during the civil rights movement in Mississippi. And okay, great. So that's why it's called
Darkness on the Delta is the name of that book.
Right.
And,
so be
what I
looking.
call kind of auto fiction. It's autobiographical with just enough fiction put in it to tie the stories together.
Right. Okay. Well, great. So check that out. So check G.E. Johnson out. It's author G.E. Johnson. Like you say, you can find her on Amazon. You can find Fish in the Dust of Kenya. She'll have the second edition of Darkness on the Delta will be coming out in the first quarter next year in 2023. You can come back and listen to this interview, and you can share this out with your friends. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's Author Adventure. You can go to YouTube. This podcast will be live stream will be live for 24 hours, and then it'll get pulled down for our to our YouTube channel and archived there, so you can come back at any time, or you can send some other folks over to watch it. And then we also do this as a podcast, so that's why I'm spelling GE's name. It's G.E. Johnson. If you're listening to the podcast of this, that goes out to like 11 different platforms over the next few days. So hopefully that will spread the word, and people will hear these wonderful stories that you have to share about Kenya. And we really encourage you to get the book, because you're going to learn more about the Maasai and the Maasai warriors. We didn't even get a chance to talk about them. The water wells. I mean, there was a robbery. There was some other stuff. You saw the gates. A lot of the places have to have gates, and they have watchmen, and because otherwise people come in and steal everything. And so it's always a perilous thing, and things can happen at any time. But it also, as GE mentioned, is such a beautiful experience. And I guess you're probably more impacted as much by the people as you were the vistas, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So if there's one last thing you want to share with our watchers, our listeners today, and people viewing, what would it be? Is it around call, or is it around storytelling, or what do you think?
It's really about facing fear, because that is really that was the stumbling block for me. And had I given into that fear, I would have never met these people, never had this journey, never had these experiences. And they are truly a treasure of a lifetime. And so, if there's something holding you back that you're just afraid of, that just might be a really fabulous, wonderful life experience, try to buck up, cowboy up, and go.
Take the
cowboy
lead.
Up and go.
Cowboy up and go. All right. Yeah. Well, GE, thanks so much. This has been Liz Lawless, your host for Author Adventure, and this is episode 18. And we're here every Tuesday at 5 o'clock from 5 to 5:30 with a great interview with authors, and we'll check in with some of GE's friends there, and we'll see about getting them on and talking about their books as well. But thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Liz.